Greetings Terrarians, Khaios here. Today we're going to be heading over to the desert to look at the brand new Journey's End Oasis. I'm very excited for this. It's one of the oldest announced minibiomes, but it's also, in my opinion, one of the best looking. I just love the way that the watercolor changes. It's got some new critters. It's just an overall fantastic addition. And here we are, the Oasis. I'm just kidding, it's right over here. This is the brand new Oasis. You've likely already seen it either in your own playthrough or through spoilers. But it has all of this wonderful foliage, it has a brand new watercolor, and it has a bunch of decorations that the desert has added. And today we're going to be, well, I guess we're going to be redoing the Oasis, customizing it, turning it into a very nice looking build, and probably doing a little desert house on the side of it, maybe a little cliffside. So today I will be customizing the desert Oasis. But what is the Oasis? Well, I mean, pretty straightforward. It's desert and water. You don't need anything more than that. You could see I'm away from the Oasis over there. If I just grab a little bit of water, place it down, it's got that nice kind of greenish teal color to it that the Oasis has. So that is an Oasis. You have enough water and the Oasis plants will start growing. Does that mean that we no longer have that ugly yellow water, which did have its uses, admittedly? Well, no, technically you can still get a desert water fountain and use that if you want that ugly yellowish water. I mean, it does have uses. You can make it look like fuel in a modern or sci-fi futuristic looking build, but I'm not a huge fan of it. I love this new watercolor and we're going to be using that. In addition, the Oasis does spawn some critters, including a grebe. Well, I'm just going to clear out these plants right here. A grebe, which is this desert bird right here. They float in the water. I guess in real life they fish. I don't think they do in Terraria. Speaking of fishing, there are fishing options in this Oasis biome, and you can even get an Oasis crate, which is just fantastic. Additionally, dragonflies also spawn within the Oasis. Now, there aren't any right now because I have critter spawns turned off through journey mode because I'm going to be building and I don't want any of this in my way. I'm just showing you a little example of what we've got here. So as far as the Oasis decorations go, the trees can be planted with just using an acorn, just like you would do palm trees at the beach. The other plants here grow naturally on top of sand whenever they're nearby water. Instead of the cactus over here, you get far enough away, you get cactus, you get close enough, and you get these other kinds of cactuses and bushes. The decorations in the water also grow. Whenever you place your own sand and place the water, they will grow naturally as well. These decorations, however, these bones, these have no way of being placed by us, currently at least. We can't place these on the floor, we can't pick them up. I want these in my build, or at least one of them. So I'm going to try and be careful with it. And I'm going to try and build around them and keep them intact. I can get rid of all of the rest of these plants and the trees because they will regrow naturally or by placing the acorn. These I'm going to try and preserve. I'm also going to drain this Oasis and rebuild it to fit what I want to do. The only reason I'm going to be doing that instead of just building around the Oasis itself is because, I mean, an Oasis is just water and desert, right? There's nothing particularly fancy or unique about it, so I thought it might be fun to just customize it myself and see what I come up with. To anybody who's curious if I can block swap with the tiles that are beneath these bones and skulls, the answer is no. Firstly, you're unable to block swap with any sand or any other tile that is affected by gravity. The simple reason for this is because it would make sand no longer an obstacle or a threat when tunneling underneath the desert. But even if we were able to block swap with sand, we wouldn't be able to have any other tiles underneath these decoration items. Whenever you block swap, any unobtainable decoration piece above that tile is broken, except for pots. That means if you were to keep these natural decoration pieces in your build, you will have to leave them on top of the blocks that they spawn on. Sadly, that means we can't have something like an enchanted sword shrine on top of brick or anything like that. It is unfortunate that we don't have any way to obtain and place these awesome looking items without the use of mods or t-edit. Now onto building the hill and the oasis. Since we cannot block swap with sand and I want to have sandstone laid into the ground, I start off by carving out a big area to fill in with the sandstone. It's square for now, but since we can block swap with this material, I can place different kinds of sand around it later to round off the edges. Next, I take sandstone and I start to form the hill's shape. I want it to have a small overhang so that I can create a cavern underneath the hill. Once that's done, I start blending in 3 different kinds of sand to make things look a little bit more natural and interesting. Well, I could just leave these as flat layers. I find that mixing and matching the blocks has a much more appealing look to it. Once that's done, I start shaping everything with my hammer so that we don't have any rough edges in the terrain, and then I start to fill in the oasis with a bottomless water bucket. It might seem odd, but vegetation growth is tied to time. So if you have time frozen in journey mode like I do right now, then nothing's going to grow. However, if I just unfreeze time, and I've got it set to currently 24 times speed, you can see we now have vegetation popping in. So I'm just going to let all of this oasis vegetation grow before I start doing anything further with the build. Okay, so obviously this hill looks like it's about to snap and fall down. I am going to add some support pillars to it right now to make it look like it's actually able to hold itself up. The reason why I didn't do this earlier is because I'm going to be making these out of background walls and I didn't want to prevent any of the foliage from growing. So for this, I'm using some previously unobtainable background walls, and I'm so happy these are actually obtainable now. If you're not sure how to get these, I do have a video, my previous video in fact, that is about the graveyard minibiome, which will tell you exactly how you can get stuff like these once unobtainable walls. So what I'm going to be doing right now is experimenting around with this and coming out with a sandstone hill design that I'm happy with. So I went ahead and planted some acorns, grew some trees. This one over here gave me a bit of trouble, so obviously this little part of the cliff looks a little bit different, and that's because I had to carve it out to give this tree space to grow. It kept growing all the way up here, so it took me a few attempts to get it a nice short palm tree. Then I replaced the cliff, grew another tree up here, and up next I will be building the house, starting with the false foundation. Since this is my first desert build of 1.4, I wanted to be sure to incorporate plenty of Journey's End's materials into it. Normally when I build a house in the desert, I would use sandstone brick blended together with yellow stucco, but this update introduces smooth sandstone, which I wanted to utilize within this build. While the coloration isn't an exact match with sandstone brick, I'm rather pleased with how they look together in this house. For the wooden accents, I decided on bamboo. I'm absolutely loving working with bamboo in this update, and it is by far one of the best looking wooden accent blocks. In my previous desert builds, I would paint the wood orange to give it a more faded look, but that doesn't really happen with bamboo as they take on a vibrant orange hue even with the non-deep paint. So instead, I'm using brown paint on them. Large bamboo makes up the supports, including the vertical support beams on the walls, while bamboo fence is used to create the window. As much as I would love a horizontal wooden texture that looks like bamboo, we sadly don't have that available to us, so I decided to go with my go-to of a rich mahogany wall. Finally, I trim the top and the bottom of the room with sandstone brick and fill in the back wall with smooth sandstone so that the structure matches its exterior. So the house is now done, minus decoration, which I'll get to in a little bit, but I'm really liking the new look of this sandstone. It's smooth sandstone to be precise, and I like the way that it matches this cliff a little bit more. and it's got a nice blend of different colors here. But also, off here to the right, I made a ladder using bamboo fence painted brown. It really looks like a ladder to me, and I think it's a phenomenal fit. Obviously, this would be an outside ladder only, because if you're inside, it would come out more like this, and it doesn't look very ladder-like. Now, this is not currently functioning, though I could think of two different ways that you could make it function, and that's either by grabbing some rope with brown paint and running it along the edge of the ladder, which it looks okay. It doesn't look the best, but you can climb up it really easily, obviously, and then you could just jump back down. The other way looks a lot better in my opinion, and that's by grabbing some bamboo platform and some brown paint, and then you just place it on top of the ladder. Now you can see it fills in this gap in the middle, but if you hammer each of those platforms 3 times, it sits right along the rung, and you can barely tell the difference, if you could tell the difference at all. So if you just place these enough distance that you can jump up to all of them, then this becomes a functioning ladder using the platforms rather than a rope, and in my opinion, looks a lot better this way too. So up next, I'm going to be decorating the interior of this house and then finishing up the build and showing you all the final product. For this decoration, I will be using some of the sandstone items that the update brings. So if you see here, we got sandstone furniture, which just looks fantastic. I've already got a couple of chandeliers and a couple of lanterns hanging. So I'll mess around with this, get it looking the best, and then I'll show you all the final product. And now my custom oasis is complete. We've spent enough time here that all of the vegetation is grown in. I've got some lime painted living leaf walls over here. The cattails have grown in as well in the water itself. I managed to keep this little skeleton here, which is fantastic because it's adorable. Of course, I've got a boulder cactus because why wouldn't I? And I have decided over here to replace the chandeliers with some hanging braziers. And yeah, so the house is complete. I hope you all liked it. If you do, be sure to leave a like and a comment, and please consider subscribing to my channel. It really helps me out. Thank you all very much for watching. I'll catch you with a new video tomorrow. Happy building.